Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Resonate Summer Series. Thanks for taking the time out today. I know everyone has busy schedules and it's also trying to enjoy, a little summer fun too. So this is the second of our 4 live webinars that will be taking place over the summer, and this is through August 19th. Each session will focus on different challenges that brand marketers and their agencies are facing right now. And if you're here, that means that you've already registered. So even if you've missed the kickoff last Wednesday, you're all set for the next weeks to continue joining or getting the recordings of these emailed to you. Today, I will be leading us. My name is Carly Napoli. I am the Vice President of Solutions here at Resonate. And in last week's kickoff to the summer series, we talked about true motivation behind your consumers and what's really driving affordability concerns specifically, and what ways to kind of understand how those concerns tell you about your customers and what you should be saying or doing with those customers. Today, I'm going to get into much greater detail on how we kind of do what we do, right? And how brands can really use us to ignite that modern, forward-facing marketing engine that they need to implement to keep up with customers today. So with that said, here's the session for today. When brand growth stalls, it's usually because of 3 common brand growth challenges that we'll talk about. In this session, I'll dig into those and I'll really tackle each one of those in a session specifically. So segmentation from scratch. How do you make sure you're making the segments that you all build really actionable? Finding your next best customer. How do you make sure that you are spending correctly across your ecosystem and talking to those next best customers and qualifying those next best customers as early on in that engagement with you as possible? And powering a consumer data layer. So creating a lead gen list at a scale we haven't seen before, right? Now, with all of the connective tissues that we have across the digital ecosystem, you can start a really robust lead gen list that's highly qualified before you even see people. So how are brands doing that today? And of course, then we'll wrap up with a nice live Q&A. So if you have any questions, there is a Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to add in some questions. All right. So again, those 3 obstacles that we were just talking about, that's really standing between brands and the growth that they're looking to have today. So first and foremost is the idea of segmentation still being trapped in a deck, right? You have these great consulting groups doing these robust segmentation projects, but the insights don't necessarily drive conversion if you don't have that connective tissue, if it's not refreshing at the cadence you need, or if you can't actually find the individuals defined in those segments. And the second thing we'll focus on is modeling. It can't always keep pace with the way consumers evolve today. And if you're not evolving those models in almost a near real time, you're reducing the potential of that lifetime value you might be able to be getting from those individuals. And the last thing is the idea of losing out on the customers you don't see yet. So brands, of course, once a customer is engaging with you, you guys have a lot of data, right? You have a lot of understanding of how they're engaging with you, where they're engaging with you. But what about before they even engage with you? And the fact that you don't have an understanding of who they are before they engage with you, could it be slowing down your customer acquisition? So all 3 of these things are core issues and challenges we're seeing brands come to us today that we're really excited that we keep evolving to be able to support. So again, starting with that segmentation from scratch. So the idea of how segmentation is usually built, right? So when you build a segmentation, it's a big project, it costs a lot of money, takes a decent amount of time, it's getting faster, but you're still taking months at the end of the day. A lot of times you are still getting that output of a PDF deliverable. So what do you do with that, right? How are you putting this into market to not lose data validity and to actually affect performance? So all of that great work and positioning and formation of your go-to-market strategy actually aligns to the work that the team then implements downstream. And then last, which we talk about a lot, is the shift of audiences and markets. So while you build these segments and potentially build them once a year, once every 5 years, maybe if you're really forward thinking twice a year, but that's still really static in the way that consumers are moving and changing today. So what we are really supporting our teams is the idea of, first and foremost, segmentation within 2 weeks. So we're really trying to up that game of speed to value. we're going to provide you an output that is a deliverable you're used to, right? So you'll get that PDF that you know and you love and allows you to help build that whole marketing formation for your segmentation, right? That media plan, your media strategy, your creative strategy. But we're also going to make all of that data actionable across every single touch point of your marketing ecosystem. And last, because we have a behavioral feed and that refresh cadence of data, we're going to be able to help you understand shifts earlier than in the past before your budget is spent on old segments or old messaging. And how we're going about doing that is it's a really clean 4-step process. Like you know and love, we'll scope it with you, right? We're going to define the audiences and the outcomes and the use cases. We're going to collect first-party data from your end, and then we're going to add in that Resonate secret sauce, right? We're going to match all of that data that we're pulling in against 250 million US adult profiles. Every single one of these profiles, we have a robust understanding of who these people are, their values, their beliefs, their motivation. So while you have a lot of that deterministic data on who they are once they're with you, we complement it with this data you don't necessarily have access to, right? It's proprietary to Resonate and really is that holistic understanding of your customer. Within that, right, combining your data with our data, we'll be able to find and identify natural groupings and audiences and provide those named archetypes. Together, we'll work with you and your team to review and refine. You'll select the segments that matter most to you and map best to your use case. And then we're going to make it so you can use it, right? So not only will we give you a report that has a match rate, a segment count, the differentiating attributes, all of the data you need to build that go-to-market strategy against each of these segments, we're also going to make it actionable. And that is a big challenge that brands have. Brands will come to us even today with segmentation projects from, other consulting companies or other even tech companies where they've been forced to fit into archetypes that already exist, right? And we're, 10% of this type of an audience or that type of an audience to be able to make it actionable, where this will be custom to your audience, to who your consumers are, and actionable. So you get really the best of both worlds. And again, when we say actionable, these segments can be classified back to your CRM list. So you can, power your direct mail or your email cadences. We can have it, live and ready in SSPs and DSPs for your activation needs or in social profiles. So really, from beginning to end, that data validity will hold true. And that's why we're seeing, the results that we're seeing with clients. So those clients that have come to us with those pain points of, we're either having segments that are like broad-based demographic cohorts, or we're trying to force fit it into predefined segments. It's not really working. So this is one financial services client that we were able to work with, that we were able to, really customize these segments with psychographic segmentation and create 5 distinct customers. And for this example, we appended it back to their CRM list. Direct mail was and email were the 2 highest things they cared most about. And from an email perspective, they did an A/B test to understand what their core demographic audiences and targeting looked like and what the lift was when they looked at our segments. And we were able to see a 15% lift in the open rate in just their first campaign, right? And we sit with you here. So it's not just we deliver you your segments and then we step out of the process. We understand what our brands are having trouble with is that constant iteration, right? Is helping evolve as a partnership together. So this is just their first go at it, and we're looking forward to seeing even more successes. So while people are redefining kind of how they want to look at segmentation, right? And segmentation really is that foundation of the start of everything. But what about when you really start focusing on those actions, right? And the spend and who you should be spending on and how much you should be spending. So another thing that we're seeing brands really lean in on is the idea of classifying those next best customers and making sure that, it's differentiated so you can optimize, your spend and optimize your ROAS at the end of the day. So challenges that brands are coming to us with, like you, are the lack of signals outside of the brand's ecosystem. So we talked about this a little bit before, but brands have a lot of deterministic data, and they have a lot of data on who their customers are once they are customers, but not necessarily an understanding of who their customers are outside of their own, walled gardens. The challenge of the models or the data that feed those models, not necessarily refreshing at a cadence that is showcasing the cadence at which customers in the market is changing today. So again, a lot of deterministic data, but missing that movement in behaviors to allow people to fall in and out of those models more effectively. And then last but not least, of course, the siloed delivery of it. So how do we make sure that all of the great work and the models and the learnings are able to be used across your marketing ecosystem? So again, what we're really focused on is, of course, improving that model performance with that proprietary Resonate data of attitudinal and behavioral data signals. We, again, are moving at the speed of your customers, and we're going to make predictions that are aligned to market conditions because they're going to be refreshed. As we have a lot of that predictive data that is helping you understand what's happening next, not what just happened before, and allowing people to move within those. And last, but definitely not least, where we see, especially now as there is data everywhere and touch points everywhere, the idea of unlocking all of this great data into wherever you need it as a marketing team to be actionable. So again, a very similar process in that we're going to collect your data. And understand that deterministic data. We're going to match it and enrich it with our behavioral signals and intent signals to be able to find who that next best customer is. We will validate and tune for accuracy and precision. And then every single customer that you provide us in the list is going to get a score from 1 to 10. So we'll assign these deciles so you can make sure that you are prioritizing the most important people for your brand. So again, that ROAS conversation, you're not wasting any money. You know who you want to maybe suppress and who you want to double down on, right? And last, that true connectivity of delivering that result, those deciles, wherever you need. So whether that is your CRM list and you really are trying to drive that customer lifetime value, we have the ability to do that. Or whether it is, which we'll talk about in a moment, against our universe, our 250 million profiles. So it can help you drive, maybe your lead generation. So you can understand which lead is the best lead before you even know who they are. So again, the big challenge we're seeing here is, of course, that siloed data set of you might have first party data and not have those predictive elements that Resonate has. And the marriage of both of those really allows models to perform best. But even more importantly, that connective tissue of what am I going to do with it and how can I make sure that I have this intelligence across every action that I plan on taking as a marketer. And again, we're seeing in the results of our clients that are, forward thinking with us in this. So this is a travel and entertainment brand, and their brand campaigns couldn't keep pace with their changing customers, especially with everything that's happened, as we all know, over the last 5-6 years of who's going to spend certain money and what types of restrictions or healthcare concerns they might have as they make these choices of travel. It was really hard to just understand it and refine a strategy off of past behavior. It was really important that their next best model customer had that kind of always on intent and predictive element of behavioral data. So combining their first party data and understanding with Resonate's proprietary psychographic and intent data, they were able to really refocus their spend. And they were able to see 15% higher conversions, a 62% reduction in CPV, and overall 117% higher landing on page views overall. So really across those who are interested to those taking action, they saw lifts across all of those touch points. And I just alluded to this a little bit, but the secret sauce that kind of brings this all together is the way you can make this actionable across your ecosystem and the way you all are challenged to make it all actionable across your ecosystem. It's the expectation, right? So the expectation of customers, of me even, is, the idea of personalization, of you knowing me, right? We have such disparate, and our brains are all over the place, that if I come and you don't know who I am right away, the likelihood of you either sending me the wrong message or not engaging with me appropriately and me not coming back is high, right? And that's a risk that, our clients are not willing to take. So with a solution like this data install that we're talking about now, you can see the customers that you don't have a relationship with yet. So it's really allowing you to create a lead gen list at a scale we've never really had before. And what does all this mean? Resonate has 250 million profiles. So 250 million US adults in one file that we can get to your environment. That file can be enriched with our 12,000 different motivational and intent attributes, media planning and strategy attributes, on every single record, or it can be classified by the segments or the next best customer model we just spoke about. So whatever is most important to you to make those decisions as early on in your relationship with that customer as possible, we can get to you. And again, that cadence, right? So this is refreshed every 8 weeks. We'll remodel, we'll retrain, and we'll reclassify that list, provide it back to you in your ecosystem for you then to, ingest as needed. So again, the install is directly delivered to your environment. In this case, we don't need any information from you except for which identity you want to do your identity resolution with, right? So whether that's a HEM, a hashed email, a mobile ad ID, an IP address, or potentially even zip11 if we're getting to that address level, we can define all of our Resonate proprietary data or all of those segments or models into your ecosystem. And every single profile and person that we match, we'll have a complete understanding of. So we will know if they fall in that segment and which segment it will, or we'll be able to provide a decile, whether that is, 1 to 10 on every single matched record. So everyone in that profile that we're providing to, in that install we're providing to, you will know how to act on. You're going to be able to then unify that across every touch point, and it's going to be in one view for you and your team and the entire company to use. So now all of that amazing work that marketing's always been doing with segmentation and with modeling is now not only, available for everyone, but it's available at an earlier stage in that customer relationship than we've really ever seen at scale before. And again, that will allow you to activate it in all the touch points. So whether that's powering a specific model for a campaign, whether that is personalization when someone gets to your website, right? And now you know that when I get to the website, I might not be going to the park, but I might take that cruise, right? And how to talk to me right away before you really know who I am. And of course, also allow you to measure and optimize as performance happens, right? You will be having an install of, robust identities. So if you have your IP address install, and you can take that log level data from your CTV activations and understand, am I reaching the people that I thought I was reaching? If not, who are they and how best should I speak to them, and really power that full, evolution of a marketing cycle and a customer journey with you. And again, this is just another example of a forward-thinking client that we work with today that is already putting this into practice. So this is a financial services provider, and they were really struggling to deliver real-time personalization on their website experiences. They didn't know they have a large portfolio of products, and they didn't know for that first-time visitor what they should hit them with. Before, they were kind of just, getting some level of geo data, but that was really all they knew if this was a first-time visitor. So using that install that I was just speaking about, for them, it was an IP address across those 250 million profiles. They could understand in real time when someone came, who they were, classify them, and know what message to put in front of them immediately. So you're really making the biggest impact you can as soon as that person engages with you. And they were able to see 53% of first-time visitors got that personalized experience. Originally, they only had 8%. They could only find 8% of us. Now, almost half. 88% of all of those site visitors received a personalized experience at any point, and 20% actually were able to get to convert into that premium product at an earlier cadence than ever before, because they were able to get that right message to the right person as early on in that customer journey as possible. And you really see a difference when you line there. I mean, we all are consumers. We all understand. Slightly creepy, but I think we've all we've all accepted it. And I want to be offered the thing that I'm looking for. It makes me feel like this brand aligns with me. So we're seeing that our forward-thinking brands are doing that at every single touch point now within that customer journey. So again, where we're really seeing the impact and the challenge, and I think will continue to be a challenge, and we're looking forward to partnering with more of you on solving for these challenges, is finding those net new customers as early as possible, potentially reaching them before they raise a hand, making sure that the model evolves with your customer. Everyone is building these models internally, but how do you make sure that you have the best signal powering those models so they're reflecting who they are now and who they are tomorrow, not just who they were in the action based off of the actions they did before. And then, of course, we just spoke about like the personalization of engagement at as many stages as possible. It's the expectation of customers and the challenge to marketers. And the more we evolve, the more we're able to really do this at a scale and a precision that we just haven't before. And now we can. So it's a super exciting time to be a part of Resonate and to be part of this, marketing and advertising tech world. Well, I appreciate all of the time that we just walked through. I want to just send a quick reminder that we do have questions. So if you do have any questions, please submit them now and we can cover off a few. And you can continue to submit them kind of while we go through this. I do have some questions that I will go through now that have come up. So the first question we have is, how would you suggest I prioritize the things we just discussed? If I can only do one thing, where would I place my bet? This is a great question. I hate to answer a question with a question, but my question would be, what is your largest company goal? What is that biggest pain? And that is where we should start. So all three of the products we just walked through, they all solve for a really specific pain. So first and foremost, segmentation, because that's where we started. Segmentation solves for that fundamental go-to-market strategy and approach, right? It will help you with your media strategy, with your messaging building. It will build the full vision of that go-to-market strategy. And then, of course, we will then allow you then to connect that and activate it. So everything through the rest of your journey is aligned. But if it's a fundamental go-to-market, a new product, a new question, I would absolutely start with segmentation. Then if the next one was maybe like a customer lifetime value, if customer lifetime value was my biggest challenge, if I'm really looking for that upsell, that cross-sell, I'm going to start with that next best customer model, right? So the next best customer model will allow me to prioritize my dollars as well as my messaging of who I'm going to hit, who's my premium audience that I need for this specific product or this specific offering. So if customer lifetime value is the biggest pain point and solve that I'm focused on for this year, I would absolutely start with next best customer. And then last, I don't pick favorites. This one might be my favorite. I would do an install. So the install is going to really help with that net new acquisition, right? So if you think about an install as that the best lead generation tool you could have, you can take those segments that you did and you can take those next best customer models, you can put them onto an install. And now you can scale that level of precision and personalization at first touch, which I think is really, the dream, peak that we all wish to get. So it really does depend on what is your biggest pain, what's your biggest struggle, and what are you trying to solve for first and foremost. Awesome. All right. And we have one more question. Okay. We've definitely seen our acquisition costs go up because we've tapped out our existing audience, but what you're describing, will it expand our addressable market or does it just make us more efficient with people we already have? Fair question. My answer to that is if we're doing our job correctly, which we will, it should be both, right? So again, you have a great understanding of who you already know. We have those 250 million profiles. So we will be able to classify people who are not in, you know, in your viewpoint today. So it will be able to extend that addressable market. But depending on the product you select, let's say if we're going with next best customer, we provide those deciles. So you can do that same rigor of how big you want to make the audience, how many deciles you want to include in your targeting, and how you want to prioritize that. So we really will be able to give you that option of, normalizing that acquisition cost, because you'll be able to focus on those best people and opening up what that addressable market can be, since we do have a view into 250 million profiles. So I know we're about at time, so I'm going to wrap up questions, but please continue to send them, and I will absolutely follow up with them personally as soon as we get off of this. And I thank you guys all so much for joining and for the thoughtful questions. And I just wanted to give one more quick reminder before we send off that if you are attending today's session, that means you are registered for the reminders of the summer series. So you can look for the Zoom links on your calendar. The next one will be Wednesday, August 12th. And that one will be a little bit more focused on the agency challenges. So that one will focus on the top 5 ways independent agencies can maintain their competitive edge. And then we'll finish up the summer series on August 19th with our holiday revenue forecast. I know a lot of brands are in the thick of holiday planning, even though it's summertime, and that this session will really help align what the predictive capabilities of, the Resonate data will allow you guys to help prepare for that holiday season. So again, thank you all so much for the time today, and I hope to see you on the next one.